Look at how bright that sucker's getting now.
I know, it's crazy.
Man, this is such a fucking wicked hidden hole. Wow. All right. Still in the shadows, so there's a steelhead in there. They can't see me. I'm going to do, this will be the last emails I share for today. The rest is dedicated to fishing. And the way the camera's seated, who knows, there's some Roosevelt elk around here. Maybe we'll get lucky. And wouldn't that be amazing if I heard an elk crossed the river up behind me? Or anything else for that matter, right? Hi. My husband recently introduced me to your channel. It wasn't until I consciously listened to the stories that I actually started to recall my own. It's like I locked it deep in my brain and threw away the key. It was so long ago, the details are spotty, but here it is. It was 1999, I was 13 years old. My friend had invited me to go camping with her family on the property somewhere around Walla Walla, Washington. I wish I knew exactly where, but I don't remember. They own quite a bit of land, so there wasn't anybody near us. It was summertime, and we were running outside and playing all day. The family built half of a cabin and attached an RV trailer to compensate for the other half. We could have slept in there, but we were too cool to hang out with the parents. So we slept outside the family's van, the big kind where the seats fold down into a bed. It was me, my friend, and her little sister. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, we all woke up to the van shaking like it had been bumped into. For some reason, all three of us woke up at the same time. We all sat in disbelief, stunned. Nobody moved for what felt like was an eternity. I remember smelling this horrible smell like wet dog and dirty diaper. Ugh, just remember it makes me want to gag. All of a sudden my friend jumped into the driver's seat, turned the key, and we turned on the dome lights. Why? I have no idea. It just seemed like the right thing to do. I put my hands up to the window and looked out. I could not see a thing. Literally darkness, like someone was covering the window. I backed up and it looked like fur pressed up against the window. Holy shit. That was it for me. I was terrified. I felt the hair standing up on the back of my neck. We're all huddled in the middle of the van, like what should we do? We knew not to get out, and this is before anybody had cell phones, so we couldn't call anybody. We covered ourselves with all the blankets, and eventually everyone fell back to sleep somehow. Nothing else happened the rest of the night, and we ended up leaving the next day. We didn't even talk about it or bring it up ever again. I have no idea what it was, or can I give you my explanation of my experience? All I can say is it happened. The weirdest part to me is how people say these things possess some kind of magical capability. The fact that we all sat there wide-eyed, not moving a muscle for several minutes is still a mystery to me. Thank you for reading my story. I hope you or somebody out there has some answers as to what they believe it could have been. Well, you forgot to leave out the part about how high up that patch of fur was stuck to the window. I know bears real well, and I guarantee you bears don't typically do that, but you never know, right? I do have a friend of mine who's a timber framer, contractor from Vancouver Island years ago, and he told me him and his girlfriend were camping in a van years ago in Vancouver Island, and something lifted up the back corner of the van off the ground while they were laying in it sleeping. They weren't asleep, obviously, but it was after going to bedtime, and something lifted the thing right off the ground. How crazy is that? So, sounds like you're not alone with that flavor of experience. Good morning, Steve. I'd like to recount a story to you that I've told many times over the past 35 years. Within the context of multiple conversations, while talking about black bear, I would question Indiana's DNR position that there were no black bear in the state. And though I had no other explanation for the encounter, I was never 100% convinced it was a bear. While hunting squirrel in Trafalgar, India, on a property very familiar to me, I noticed a tall oak tree at the edge of the woods with a horizontal claw mark up about 8 feet. It was rather fresh, considering the exposed flesh of the tree was still white. While staring at approximately 12 inches by 7 inches, 4-foot groove gash. While staring at the approximate 12-inch by 7-inch 4-groove gash, a nearby thickly overgrown old fence line about 40 yards long shook violently, scattering all manner of inhabiting wildlife. Besides the beating wings and loud chirping from the frightened fleeing fowl, I heard a deep and bellowing grunt come from within the overgrowth. The sound was too loud and deep for that of a bear. Trafalgar, Indiana is one of a few small towns scattered along State Road 135 south of Indianapolis. When you reach it, though full of modern convenience like stores, gas stations, gun shops, and burger joints, you begin to truly feel you're heading out to the country. Granted, for anyone familiar with the area, we're not talking about millions of acres of forest anywhere nearby, and the property I hunted was just a few miles south of downtown. Now, about 50 yards south of the road from the farmhouse where I parked was the clawed-up oak tree. To the east of the tree lay a 10-acre tillable field, bordered on the south end by overgrown fence line. No livestock were kept on either side. It should also be noted that the south and east of this farming community sits in a 35,000-acre Camp Atterbury National Guard training facility, which is heavily wooded outside the perimeter of the barracks. Back to the hunt. Not knowing what I was dealing with, I stood frozen for a minute. After all, if it was a bear, the last thing I wanted to happen was to get bested by it, and in the 50-yard dash back to the truck. Remembering the lone deer slug in my pocket, I did have enough wits about me to switch out the number 6 birdshot for it. In my break top J.C. Higgins, and made note of the 5-shot 38 Special Charter arms in my belt, before gathering myself and slowly getting the heck out of there. While there have been bear sightings in the last couple of years in the extreme southern Indiana, 35 years ago, DNR had no record of any there, let alone central Indiana, I asked. One more note to Nephilim seekers. There are many unexplained mounds in this area, for what it's worth. All right. The old mystery, what was it? Story. And no answers. Which kind of sucks, doesn't it? Lifelong mysteries, one after the other. Oh, comfy here. Thanks for sending that email, man. I'm sure if somebody around there has had an experience, they're gonna share it. Oh, I screenshot this. No, somebody screenshot this and sent it to me. Steve, I'm new to your channel and absolutely love it, brother. My 8-year-old son is so fascinated by your Sasquatch and grizzly stories. Do you want me to see if you can give him a shout out? So I thought I would try. Okay, I think it's a typo. His name is Damon DD Jr. All right, there you go. Oh, DD wanted me to see if you can give him a shout out, so I thought I would try. His name is Damon DD Jr. Well, that's easy. Of course I give him a shout out. Damon, thanks for coming out, man, and thanks for watching the channel. And I apologize to you if sometimes my language gets a little offside, but this is a bit of an offside topic, and sometimes it just happens. So, but anyway, thanks for watching the channel, Damon, and have a great day and a great weekend, buddy. All right, and be safe out there, and make sure you spread the knowledge that we're sharing here with your friends. Okay. Just call me Don. Keep my full name out, please. I'm from Fort St. John. My full name, blah, blah, blah. I worked for Canadian Special Forces. All right. Hello, Steve. Love your videos on YouTube. This story is best told in 3 stages. The first part is an explanation of how I became aware of my gifts, my /burden. The second part explains my understanding and growing my skills using to stay alive while under extreme life and death conditions. Last is a 2-part experience I had out and around the BC interior. P.S. There's a lot more to this story, but I'll try to keep it short. My name is Don. I'm 55 years old, partially retired and ex-member of the Canadian Armed Forces. I have Native American in my blood, which may explain something, maybe. As a young child, I had noticed that I could tell/sense animals close to me that I could not see or hear. They would come on to me like I was looking at myself through their eyes. At first, it was extremely hard to understand, but in time I learned to control it. And I have to understand, this is starting at the age of 6 or 7 years old. When I became more active in the woods at an old age, I started to experience it in ways a bit different. There was emotion and intent, but it had to be a very strong feeling, like anger, rage, and a bit of some other feelings. This is when I also noticed I could calm their feeling by controlling my own emotions, age 10 or 12. As I became older, all of this became stronger and more in tune to all living things, and I could reach out and pick up these feelings at a much greater distance. During this point in my life, I loved to hunt, fish, and lived as much as possible out in the outdoors. I was a wild thing because I would hide away as best I could from people to avoid their social restraints and emotional confusion. Now this is me at age 14 to 60. Part 2. I remember you having a few emails where you read in the past about having 6th sense and the ability to hone in on someone just by them thinking or projecting thought. Well, here we go. I'm a bit older. My father's a police officer and he wants me to follow in his footsteps and join the police force like him. No. I'm thinking I would rather be in the woods as a guide. I've worked as a guide helper for 3 years now. Or become a forestry officer? Someone said, why not join the armed forces? I thought, what the hell? I'm in great shape, extremely good in the wilderness, and would love to see the world on someone else's dime. Jump ahead a few years, and now with a few deployments under me and a few scars later, my 6th sense has kept me from being ambushed and blown up, but it has also made me extremely good at killing. I could track people, and I would pass this information on. To know where your enemy is and feel what they are thinking has given some of my brothers an uneasy feeling. They loved and trusted me with their lives, but I always felt the distrust coming from them, and it freaked some of them out. I have and always will be scared in a firefight, but I would control that instinct and fear. I would have a calming effect on others around me. I was asked once from an American officer if I had special abilities. I laughed it off, but later was questioned by a few more people about my luck or good tracking skills, and I played stupid. I found out later I had been investigated for telepathy or telekinesis abilities. I took the time to find out more about this, to find out they were look for people that they could use. I found out they would look for people they could use or experiment with to try to use them in other ways. So this is when I went dark, using it sparingly to save my ass in my life. Part 3. It is around the end of my military career, and I'm posted in Wainwright, Alberta. I have a few weeks of leave coming to me, so I take a trip to Jasper to do some camping away from the people. I want to see the mountains. We took off in the woods north of the number 16 highway west of Jasper, which is a major hotspot for sightings. Major. And I wanted to walk forever, but I guess my mind was just wanting some peace. Not knowing exactly where I was, I didn't care. I had just passed a small lake and come to a meadow/bog with a beaver pond. My senses were all opening up, and I could just let go of it all. That restraining I had to do while around humans, it felt so good. I spent around 6 days in a hammock, around 20 feet up under a tarp. Life was perfect. I was living off some of the land, fish, and some edible plants, and what I brought with me. Now about the third day in, the later part of the evening, I had noticed it became very quiet. I started to get that bad feeling I was being watched. So me being who I had always been, started to feel out with my thoughts. It didn't take me long to find out where it was. I cannot describe the intense fear I felt at that moment. Remember, I've been in combat and wounded, tremendous firefights, and nothing like this. I've never in my life touched a mind like this one. It was projecting fear into my mind. It took me some time to gain control of my thoughts and control over my emotions, but my training kicked in and I took control. Now I could not see this thing or smell it or hear it, but it was there. I started to talk myself in my mind saying, be calm, stay cool, over and over again until most of the fear had subsided. At that time, this thing was gone. That was the first time I had experienced this creature/thing. I thought at first that it was a brown/grizzly bear, but I didn't think so. I had experienced with black bears, and this is very different. I stayed in my hammock for a bit, looking for this thing, feeling around it at me best, but it was gone. So was my fear. Now part 2 of 3. LOL, sorry for being long, but like I said, there's much more to this. I'm trying to keep it small. Now I'm out of the military, and I'm working as a guide/guide helper for a group out around Fort St. John, BC, elk hunting. This day we're riding out to an area picked by the hunter and guide, and I'm just following along as the extra in my mind is wandering. I'm just thinking about the bugs and home when I start getting an uneasy feeling. I now have been close to grizzly bears and polar bears, and I know what they're like and know their feeling. So I tell the guide that something's watching us. He looks at me and says, probably a grizzly. They know it's elk season and sometimes it follows to make an easy kill from us, but to keep my eyes open and watch out. I was armed with a 12-gauge pump with slugs. I know what this can do to any animal, so I had very little fear, but it still kept tingling the hair on the back of my neck. I felt out trying to detect it, but nothing. Then I zoned in on how quiet it had become. We spent that day calling and waiting. Now we stayed back quite a bit to add to their scent, and less noise the better, their chances, but still nothing. But I could still feel that we were being watched. That evening, about a half an hour before dark, I finally felt what it was that had set me off. And bang, like the last time, that feeling of fear hitting me was there, but this time not as strong, and I zeroed in on it. It was following the hunter and the guide. I reached out to it, and then that fear feeling came hard and heavy. I was ready, but still it caught me off guard. To this day, I don't know what it was and may never know, but I do know this. It was intelligent enough to be human, but not. I've never been able to see this with my eyes, and I still don't know what it was. I confused it, and I felt its fear, and more, and then it disappeared. That was the last time I've had contact with anything like it. I never did say anything to those two I had been with, or to anyone else about any of this until today. I have dropped hints to some, though I could trust, but not all the truth until now, and even then it is shortened. Everyone has a sixth sense, but lose it over time for one reason or another. Some are strong with it, and some never really get the sensation, but everyone I think is born with it. Yeah, there's more to the story, but perhaps another time. Keep my email and drop me a hello from time to time. Until then, love your work. Keep up the outstanding job you're doing, and I envy every day you're out in the woods. Wow, that's a frickin' awesome email, man. I thank you, and I absolutely appreciate that big time. And I'm sure everybody else does too. Because you know what? I've been speculating that we all have had these skills from the time we were born, and I am absolutely convinced for myself that we have been our skills have been purposely conditioned out of us. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I'm sure there's more people like you out there who have maintained that skill without a doubt in my mind. And I don't know if they're watching this channel, but if they are, I hope they contact us and send us an email and describe it and teach us about it, because I sure would like to get to know it again. But anyway, But anyway, I'm gonna go pack up my gear and wade across the river back here outside of this hole up here. I'm gonna sneak up in the timber up on that bank above and peek down and see if there's any steelhead laying in there. If there is, I'll try to videotape them before I stir it up in my fishing gear. There we go again. Make sure you email in to tellmystory@howtohunt.com or share my story at howtohunt.com, and we'll get to it. What sucks about this? Not much.